And welcome to day 2 of the AI² Summit. I have asked our platinum sponsor, Studiosity, to introduce our keynote speaker. Please welcome to the stage Troy Burnett, who is the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Studiosity North America.
Good morning, everybody. I represent Studiosity. We're an Australian-based company out of Sydney. My colleague Jared joins me today. We're the North American team for Studiosity, somewhat new to the US. So come by and have a chat with us, and we'll introduce ourselves. We can talk at our table, or we can go for a walkabout. So, you know, if you're an introvert, you can actually just slide by our table, grab our business card, email us later. No eye contact necessary. Make it easy for us. You want to know how easy it will be to respond? Hey, Claude, respond to an email for an introvert summarizing what Studiosity does. Thank you, Claude. Do you guys thank your chatbots? Who thanks your chatbot? If you're not thanking your chatbot, you're doing it wrong. When the machines become sentient, they will remember your gratitude. Speaking of gratitude, I'm really grateful to be able to have the opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker today, Dr. Talitha Washington. Dr. Washington's a distinguished mathematician and serves as the executive director of the Center for Applied Data Science and Analytics at Howard University. She also serves as the principal investigator of the NSF-funded Research Coordination Network on assessing and predicting job outcomes in AI, a national initiative focused on building a coordinated understanding of AI jobs, skills, and credentials to strengthen the nation's AI workforce ecosystem. The title of her keynote is Beyond the Algorithm, Redefining Workforce Readiness in the Age of AI. Please welcome Dr. Talitha Washington.
All right, I'm looking forward to that walk. I don't know about you, right? All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit today about what I've learned, what I've seen, and I'll just give you a warning. I'm always told I have too much content on my slides, and if you want my slides, you have a phone, right? Take a photo, right? Because you know it'll be on to the next. Okay, great. So before I get started, I just want to acknowledge that any opinions, findings, or conclusions, recommendations expressed are those of my own and don't necessarily reflect the views of any organization. So if you like them, great. If you don't, that's great too. Because what I hope to do is inspire you to think about different facets of AI, maybe the different student perspectives AI. How's the national landscaping influencing how we're doing and seeing AI? I started my days at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and kind of didn't know what I wanted to major in, but I like to explore. So I ended up with what I thought was the easy major, which is mathematics. I didn't want to do it lab because I'm very clumsy, and minored in Spanish. And so then I didn't have anything better to do, but then I always have to give a shout out to UConn, right? Because all we do is win. Yeah, and of course, somebody says too soon, But, my grad school, UConn, played my postdoc school, which is Duke. So I was like, I'm going to win. But, the UConn guy who shot the ball is originally from the great state of Indiana. I'm also a Hoosier. So go Hoosiers if we have, okay, we got some, okay. Evansville, okay, great. All right, so now that we get those niceties, I'm currently the executive director of the Center for Applied Data Science and Analytics at Howard University. And our role is to coordinate, facilitate data analytics AI across the university and just hang out and do stuff, innovate, anywhere from research, education, curriculum. And you'll notice that our faculty are from across the disciplines because data really is leveraged and comes from all disciplines. And how do we make value of that? Now, Howard is actually named by that guy in the middle there, who's General Oliver Otis Howard, who actually taught mathematics at West Point. So I don't know why we always forget that we're named after a math guy. But anyway, we're a federally chartered, private, historically Black university located, I guess, about a mile north of the National Mall. And so we're a comprehensive university. We have 14 schools and colleges, and we were established by the federal government. So if you think your university processes are slow, just have a federal government flavor in there. Just mix it all, you know. But it's actually really fun. Really love the school. Our center has a master's in applied data science analytics. Deadline to apply is April 14th. It is online, and we'll be launching a minor and a bachelor's program in data science in the fall. So a lot of new curriculum is emanating, and as we know, AI is leveraging all of this data fun stuff. Now, what is this workforce readiness business all about? So I'm a mathematician, so I like to define things. I'm an axiomatic approach kind of gal, right? And so this was a definition I thought was nice from Augsburg University. It says, ensure that today's and tomorrow's workforce has the skills, competencies, and behaviors to succeed in today's and tomorrow's workplace. And we know that AI is changing the workplace. Just when computers came on board, I remember when I did not have an email. Anybody? No? Okay, right? All right, and I love the Hidden Figures movie, but they didn't have slide rules. We went from slide rules to calculators to phones, right, and compute power. And so these different tools and technologies have changed how we behave. They've changed how we interact. They've changed what it means to be skilled. They've changed what it means to be competent. And so how do we prepare our students to succeed today and for the unknown of tomorrow? We see a lot of stuff in the media, top growing AI jobs, right? There's chief risk officer, chief AI officers are popping up. But we also see that office jobs may change in 5 years. New jobs are, we'll say, being eliminated. Data center risks as far as we like to breathe sort of thing. And the Anthropic CEO warns AI will destroy half of all white-collar jobs. So we're seeing a lot of media come out. So how do we make sense of all this? And when we're in the classroom, right, we don't teach in a vacuum. We interact with the world, our students interact with the world, so we need to be cognizant of what's happening at the global scale. So what are some of the challenges we see in the classroom? And this is from Columbia University. We're redefining what does it mean to have academic integrity. What sort of assistance is okay assistance? Teaching and assessment design are changing now that we have AI. What does it mean to teach if AI can do this, that, and the other? How do we assess learning in this age of AI? Pedagogical uncertainty. How do we teach? We got to rethink all of this. Now, in the math circles, we had this thing called the calculator, TI-81-2. Anybody? 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 Okay. Now, when that came on the scene, whew, there were a lot of fights in math departments. We should use calculators. We should not use calculators. How should we use them? No, we should not use them. Ooh, wait, we can do different things with them. And we started generating practices, best practices around how do we use technology in teaching with the calculator. But that was in math. Now it's everybody, as they say, right? Everybody gets the joy of being challenged with this technology of how do we rethink pedagogy? How do we rethink this technology use and critical thinking? Then also faculty preparedness and support. As it evolves, how do we make sure that we stay in tune with what's happening? And how do we basically, I like to get in my students' head to see how are they seeing things? How are they experiencing learning? Because then I can meet them where they are and then take them where they need to go, they want to go. So what is this AI business about? We can think about AI as leveraging computers and machines to mimic problem solving and decision-making capabilities of the human mind. Now, right now, a lot of this AI stuff is built on neural networks. Back in the day, 70s, 80s, math biology was a really hot topic. It still is, right? Math biology is a hot topic. I actually looked at dynamical systems of cellular processing signaling pathways as a graduate student. That's my research area. My side gig became my main gig. You know how that goes. I don't think it's going to work with dancing, but, you know, we'll see. But the neural network modeling really looked at if we have the brain, how can we mimic, how can we model, get understanding of what's happening in the brain? So we developed in mathematics these neural network models. A lot of the AI is built on neural network models. Now, there's different ways to model things, right? We have dynamical processes, stochastic processes, statistical processes, and so on, right? So if we change the fundamental models about how we do this thing of AI, it could change the game. So that's the next. So don't get too comfortable with the L's. Deep learning, machine learning, large language, whatever, modeling, small language, right? Don't get too comfortable with the L's, because as our understanding of models and being able to apply different models to mimic human behavior, that will change, and the AI technology will change. And if we can unpack quantum, it's gonna be fun, right? And so AI is nothing new. It was a term that was first born in 1956. I'm not sure who was around then. I was maybe not even thought of. But it was a term from 1956, so it's not new. What is new is when chat came on the scene in 2022, and we could generate all this stuff from our phone, from our computers. We had been using AI and didn't know it when we used Google search engines. Anybody remember Bing? Yeah, got some Bing. Lotus 123, just had to go there. Okay, maybe a couple, right? Okay, Red Hat, okay. Anyway, but when chat came on in 2022 and it could generate all this stuff, I was like, whoa, what are we gonna do? That's when it really hit. So this thing of AI mimicking human behavior, here you see it in a Venn diagram, right? I love a good Venn diagram. A proper subset of that is machine learning, is when you're using statistical methods to enable machines to improve with experiences. And then a subset of that is a deep learning, looking at multi-layer neural networks. Now that green area, as I had implicated previously, that green area is much bigger than what's in the picture, right? So it's not gonna, so AI is not machine learning, so don't get too comfortable, because that green area is like super huge. So this was from Microsoft Learn. I really like the Microsoft Learn courses, so my school has a 50% off discount. And the reason why I like it, I was that student, I showed up late, it was traffic, DC traffic. I had to sit in the front row. I didn't even know what I was doing. My Microsoft guy said, hey, you should go to this thing. I said, okay. I showed up, I was like, oh wait, this is a certification? Wait, so I had no idea, I just show up to stuff. And then the instructor, the facilitator says, this is all applied math. I was like, yes! Everybody else is like, who's that? Who's get her, right? But it was great. So this is just a snapshot from that course, where they have the penguin on the left, where you're getting all the data measurements. So when we talk about data that's ready for AI stuff, there's a lot of data science that's fueling AI. If you don't have your data situated, I always say AI can't fix bad data, can't fix incompetencies. You gotta have the data situated so that perhaps you can have some luck and you can either have a model or develop a model where you can input that data into these functions, you see how they network together, and then you get an output. So maybe you can make a predictability that is a penguin. In this case, it's 0.7 probability. We can think about AI models as a probabilistic model. Now, what are these function things? Well, remember back in the day in college algebra, y'all didn't know y'all were getting a math lesson this morning, right? Yeah, you gotta be something, right? So back in the day, you had something like, I don't know, y equals mx plus b, kind of something. And then you were like, ooh, let's get fancy and have some function notation. F of x equals mx plus b. It said you put the x in, you multiply it by m, and then add b. So the function told you what to do with the inputs. In this sort of situation, you have to find the function such that if you have an input x, or this penguin, I can label it as y. Now, I might not get that label right, but really the gem is to be able to extract that function or that network group of functions so I can make predictions, so I can loop things together, so I can generate text, so I can do these things. That's really the fundamental part. So it's finding that function f, and math is queen of all sciences. There are different ways you can find the function. Neural networks, Gaussian processes, multivariate linear regression, and so on. But again, this will change with time. So it's good to understand that, at least for my students, where we are, some of them feel like AI is just overwhelming, right? It's taking over. They're seeing data centers going to our communities. It's just a lot to take in. And then when I unpack and say, no, AI is just a tool, a calculator, on some level, it makes at least our students, it makes them feel a little bit better that it's not some ambiguous thought or concept coming to destroy the planet. So that's why I share it with you. And there are different types of AI. Generative AI, everybody loves that, right? So generate some pictures, images, code. Agentic AI, can we loop together some agents so they can do stuff autonomously? Now, okay, so I'm not going to say where I was yesterday, National Academy of Sciences, but we were at a workshop, and some of the presenters were like, humans will always be in the loop. I was going, have y'all not seen that we have like AI agents that are building roadbeds in buildings with maybe like a start button that a human presses and it just autonomously goes? Because you can build agents to check your agents. And I was like, that's kind of the next leap. I didn't say it at the thing, but I'll tell you all afterwards, you know. But yeah, so that's kind of where like the next wave of AI really is. Right now we have the human in the loop. We want to feel comfortable. We want to check. We want to still regain control and be autonomous or keep human autonomy. But the next step could be that AI actually does these tasks without the human. Yeah, they'll probably lose GPS signals in doing that too. Good, thank you. And there's different types of prompting, right? So first, like with prompting, we called it prompt engineering. Now they call it prompting and language prompting, or you know, it changes until we settle on something. So these are just different types of models, like text models, if you want to generate text, images for pictures, music models. And the model types are different depending on what you want to generate. And the prompting structure is different depending on what you generate. Now, some people have like some really strict prompting guidelines. And vibe coding, anyone? Nobody? Okay, we got a couple. So vibe coding is the new wave where you can do coding by just prompting. Just say, hey, build me this whole complicated tech tool, and boop, pops out. Well, as long as things go right. So if you don't know about vibe coding, check it out. It's I don't know, I see it as fun. Now, what powers all this AI stuff? When we say cloud, we don't mean a cloud in the sky. We actually mean a boring, I didn't say boring, a room of racks on racks on racks on racks. So you know the desktop computer with the CPU? So just think about a whole bunch of CPUs interconnected. They can have compute power if you link them together. So it's like parallel processing on steroids sort of thing. And so when you have computers and a lot of lights in a room, it gets hot, right? So the data centers, they have to keep it cool. You might have water. And so when you write something in your phone, whether it's in a Google search bar or chat or whatever, it goes to one of these data centers to do the computation and then comes back to you, right? And so we've seen, I'm from Indiana. I'll say this joke, it never works, but I'll say it anyway. In Indiana, data centers are popping up like corn. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And then, so for our ethical responsible AI course, I was like, oh, I'm talking about data centers, and I pulled up a video where there was essentially the community was upset because there were NDAs between industry and government, and the community couldn't be involved in that conversation. And then I think it was the other week, Microsoft put an end to NDAs. So we got to keep good pressure on, right? And so when we talk about AI, people come to me and say, ooh, your students must be lovers of AI. They must like it. I said, absolutely not. They are the best critics. They don't want it. They don't like it. And they don't want it because of data centers. They're worried about the environment. They're worried about where they're placed. And so I always say we have to, you know, be at the table or else we're on the menu. So my modus operandi is just encourage them to understand that maybe in the beginning data centers were built in the best way. Optimism here, right? But now I want to say that data centers are actually thinking about things like the environment, zero net water, reducing energy waste. Hopefully we can make algorithms more efficient. We can make the technology more efficient. And this is just the Microsoft one in Atlanta where they twinned it with Wisconsin that just opened up. And so they are huge. But do we want to have compute power? Yes. Do we want to breathe? Yes. So it's how do we do this in a way that's environmentally friendly, in a way that makes sense? So as we've seen, in DC, I'm in Washington, DC, politics is motivating how we're thinking and doing AI, whether you like it or not, right? It's just is what it is. And as we are learned citizens of society, we are cognizant of AI that's coming down from the hill, literally. And so in January of 2025, we saw a first executive order at the top of the year that says, no, we're just going to build, baby, build with AI, promote human flourishing, economic competitiveness, national security. So you might be thinking, well, what does national security have to do with it? Remember back in the day, there was a thing called the space race? Now, that was with NASA, race to get to the moon. How is that race to get to the moon? How is that national security? If they get to the moon, we were afraid that other countries would drop things on us, right? For those who remember, okay. Nobody wants to admit, but that's okay if you remember that. And so it was national security that we actually raced to the moon so we could keep the nation secure. And it was, what was the country in the space race we were with? Russia. No, so the AI race, who are we in the AI race with? China, yeah. So it's a different day. It's similar. I'll just say similar and put a period in it, right? I'm nonpartisan, by the way. And so then we saw in April of 2025, Advances AI Education for American Youth, a call to cultivate the skills and understanding necessary to use and create the next generation of AI technology. Meaning we don't even know what it is yet. But we're supposed to do it. And then later on in 2025, Department of Ed put out a funding call. So if you want to know a secret, the funding agencies, private and public, they actually read these things as strategy documents for funding. And if you can actually bring some solutions, insights that are really beneficial, _ really beneficial, these give you a heads up about what's coming next. So just my opinion. And then we saw in July 2025, America's AI Action Plan. If you haven't read it, that's a definite homework, because a lot of the AI policy that's coming out after is coming from the America's AI Action Plan. And when we're talking about education, it's talking directly to the second one, building a robust AI infrastructure, and also the first one, empowering American workers in the age of AI, right? In education, that's what we're doing. In November, Genesis Mission totally ruined my Thanksgiving, because that's all I did. It's like rabbit hole read on it. Genesis Mission, anyone? This is the thing. Okay, we got some hands. Okay, we got some hands. Okay. So Genesis Mission, this is not the Terminator movie, but this is the executive order that came out November. Essentially, let's take all the data from the national labs, from federally funded projects, from over here, over there, let's put it all together into some crazy supercomputer, and let's develop science in a new way. AI-enabled science, AI-accelerated science, right? I'm just hoping that cybersecurity people are deep in the trenches on this one, right? Because what could go wrong? I don't know. But the idea is, well, how do we do that? How do you bring all the data together in a way where you can leverage it to use AI? How do you also keep it safe? And wait, if we're having AI-enabled science, AI-accelerated science, do we need to rethink the scientific method? Because the scientific method has driven how we approach science, how we find discoveries, right? You start with your hypotheses, you do your reading and research, you carry out the investigation, do some experiments, and validate and share out, right? The scientific method, we learned that in what, 3rd grade? Maybe this will change that. A lot of big maybes. So in the Genesis Mission, there are sectors that are noted. Energy, because to power these, right? How are we going to either generate new energy, or I hope something that's nice energy, I'll say it that way, right? Nice energy. So nuclear is big now, grid modernization to stabilize the grid, right? Or at least optimize it. Biotech is going to be big as well. We can use, theoretically, AI to do drug discovery and speed up the results, biosecurity, also computing, semiconductors, so AI-driven chip design. not potato chips, I love potato chips, but not potato chips, but like microchips that are in your phone, your car, your cell phones. How do we produce those? Because you all are consuming those, as am I. Quantum, can we unlock the power of quantum to actually do computing in a new, powerful way? And then the last, but probably the most important, is this mineral business. So if we think about, I got the Apple Watch on, right? It has a battery. This probably has a battery, right? Your phone has a battery. What's in a battery? Lithium. Wait, where do you get lithium? Chile? Mm-hmm. So there are places around the world where you get lithium. Is it unlimited supply? So how are we going to keep producing these batteries? I'll just give you one example. We can go to how are we going to produce the chips? How are we going to produce the computers themselves? How are we going to produce these things, tools and technologies that actually power AI? So these minerals come from somewhere on the planet. My theory, we're seeing some of that play out right now. But if you read the national security doc that came out in November, critical minerals is a heightened strategy for better or for worse. So critical minerals is a hot topic right now. And then the other Friday, the National AI Legislative Framework. So there's been calls to, maybe have some ethical, responsible AI in doing this. And so there was a lot of, I'll say, organizations that came together post-December. In December, there was a call for this, a national AI policy. But this is a legislative framework. So it's not a policy document. It's just a framework about how to proceed. So you can think of it as step by step. Two things I thought were interesting. On number 2, when it talked about safeguarding and strengthening American communities, this is a direct quote. They including data infrastructure build out while ensuring communities are protected from harmful impacts. I felt better. I was like, okay, somebody's thinking about this. And then number 6, we see this again and again in many of the strategy docs, educating Americans and developing an AI-ready workforce. So that's also a call to us. How do we create this AI-ready workforce? In our students, in our faculty, in our staff, in our communities, right? And how do we scale that in a way that makes sense? But at the end of the day, let's just not forget that our brain is the original processor, right? And AI should enhance, not replace, core elements of teaching, learning, and research. It's a tool. It's not a replacement. There's a thing called human intuition. I don't think a computer can replicate. So, in my opinion. It's I have the pleasure of serving as PI of this NSF Research Coordination Network with Hans on assessing and predicting job outcomes in AI. And this whole AI jobs last year was, what is it? How do we deal with it? Oh no, AI's taken over the workplace. And then wait, how do we train our students to go into the workplace? And then how do we even teach? A lot of questions. And so we whittled this down to 3 fundamental questions. What is an AI job or AI adjacent job? What AI knowledge, skills, and abilities are needed? And then how do we build AI credentials and curricula? And we keep cycling back over these. And so the other week, last week, right? We held a series of workshops to ask people we had wonderful presenters, but we also asked the attendees to share their insights around this AI jobs business. We'll be producing a report soon, and it'll be on our website. And so we had an amazing speaker. You see Hans on there, right? Y'all see him? Y'all see him? Second from, okay, shout out, UFL. Okay, but so this is some of the insights shared from the speakers who you see on the left, but then also those who participated and provided feedback. They said the AI is reshaping work by changing tasks and augmenting roles, not by eliminating jobs. Job outcomes depend on AI exposure and a worker's ability to adapt and reskill. So it's about being agile, about being flexible, and about saying, okay, what is this new technology? Labor market evidence shows a strong overlap among AI, software development, and IT. Jo Bohler, who's at the top, she did an Ohio study where they went through a whole bunch of different job recs to have that finding. I think 74,000 of them. And the most critical AI era skills are, no surprise, critical thinking, effective prompting, and ethical judgment. Being able to judge what's right and what's wrong. And so ethics is about judging what's right and what's wrong, and that could change depending on your culture, your vantage point, what you know, what you don't know, the stars, the alignment. So I see ethics as always asking, is this right or is this wrong? But continually asking and never ending up with a solid answer, but always re-asking. Is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing to do? Should we really do this? Healthy skepticism. And the last bullet says, AI jobs are defined by responsibilities to build, implement, govern, and validate AI systems. And I know one person in the workshop said, just because if I have a hammer, does that make me MC Hammer? No, they didn't say MC Hammer, but I just want to put that in there. I don't know. Okay, so no, they didn't say it. But yeah, does that make me a hammer? I think it's better MC Hammer. That'd actually be a really good meme, but okay. And so just because I use AI, does that mean I have an AI job? And so the idea was if you're actually building, implementing, governing something with AI versus just using it as a tool in everyday work, it's a different sort of AI job. So it's an evolving conversation. So how is AI embedded in everyday work? Because we can think about our workflow day, but we can also think about what our students will enter this summer in internships or this summer in their first job or grad school. So AI can support information gathering, but students need to understand how do I evaluate and verify. And so in our, I don't know, maybe it's traditional teaching, traditional curriculum, some of these elements may not be as prominent, but now they're, I think, a necessity. So how do we embed these skills into teaching and learning in a way that makes sense in our disciplines, in our classrooms? So AI-generated drafts or outputs, but being able to edit and refine. For me, I was the editor of the NAM newsletter. NAM's the National Association of Mathematicians. Don't tell my friends this, my math friends, I had to edit some really bad articles, right? But golly, that skill of being able to edit an article that was like terrible has helped me to edit outputs and refining things. So the ability to refine something from, what is this to, okay, it's this, I think that's a skill, and that's where I learned it. How are we teaching that in the classroom? So AI assists with analysis, but we have to be able to interpret, assess limitations, and explain when the outputs are appropriate or not. So AI is used across all disciplines, and how do we apply what tool, when, where, and how? And at the end of the day, it's the human that remains accountable. Can we demonstrate ethical reasoning and responsible decision-making? So yesterday when I was at National Academy of Sciences, somebody did say something I thought was really interesting, that in higher education, that we can invite students in to assess, to evaluate, to critique, and to fail, and we want to help them on that learning trajectory. But when they get a job, failure has different consequences. I'll say it that way. So having students to really be able to critically think about writing, to really critically think about the art that they see, to really critically think and evaluate and express that in higher education, in that effort to build their critical thinking skills, I think will be paramount as they enter into this evolving workforce. And oftentimes I'm asked a lot about AI policy and governance. I guess I'm just a policy junkie, like one of those people. Actually, when I graduated from undergrad, did take the LSAT. I was like, I'll go to law school or should I go get a math PhD? My mom said there were too many lawyers, so I was like, okay, I'll get a math PhD. I'm such a sucker, right? Anyway, so in higher education, this whole AI governance business really came out, I'll say, as a big knee-jerk reaction in 2022 when chat came on the scene. Universities and colleges were like, what is this? Like, no. Some are still like a hard, no AI. But you see that there are principles and guidelines that started to come out across higher education in 2023 to now we're starting to kind of evolve in a less panicked mode. Some folks that have AI policy documents, I won't call them out, they, in my mind, because y'all know I like definitions, they loop together different layers and it doesn't make sense. And so we have like a really good policy document that's almost done being reviewed. I have no bias, right? Absolute bias. But it's really good. When we think about higher education AI governance or AI governance in education, we have principles. What are our core values, right? And how does that reflect or align with AI? Guidelines. What are ways that you can actually put AI in practice or maybe not, right? And you could also have FAQs, policies, formal, enforceable institutional rules. When we first developed our policy doc, I was like, I don't need your opinion in a document where somebody could sue. Like, this is right or wrong. The other stuff, goes somewhere else. And so it took a while for us to come around that they still, okay, fine, it took about a year. But, shared governance, I think, is really the way to go, because then you make sure you really understand and you're going in the right way. And then procedure standards, who's going to be accountable for it. And then training and capacity building is a part of AI governance. How do we encourage the conversations around good uses that we know of with AI and maybe not so good uses? And so we do those workshops. Workshops and training are a part of governance, and then ongoing review. So at Howard University, we launched an AI initiative in June of 2024 from the president. So many presidents, they saw this AI tsunami, right? University of Florida was really at the earlier stages than many institutions. We came on with our AI initiative 2024, and the president wanted an advisory council to advise him on what and how we should do things. So he pulled together leaders from across the university to really figure out, well, what do we do around capacity and expertise, infrastructure, partnerships, and strategy and governance. Now, I came back to Howard, so I call it Washington 2.0, in January of 2025, and I was like, this is so cool. Y'all been meeting for a while. What y'all doing? Let's hang out. This is fun. They were like, we're not moving fast enough. I said, oh, well, who's supposed to implement this? Oh, you're not supposed to ask certain questions like that, because guess what happens? You implement them, right? So I usually attribute myself as the AI waitress. How may I take your order? How do you want your AI? Over easy or scrambled? I don't know. And what is needed? So really, that's how I approach it. That way. And so since then, like I said, I co-chair this AI Advisory Council along with our amazing provost. So we have an AI policy document that is at the final stages of review at the board. We've approved our certificate. We've had a number of activations with industry. Do we have a way to go? Absolutely. But it's so much fun. And we've been doing AI for a while. Donda has a Center of Excellence looking at AI and ML that was launched back in 2020. And then my center was launched in February 2022, looking at data science analytics. The other Dr. Washington, the better Dr. Washington, she looks at, one of her interesting projects is Project Elevate Black Voices, where they take voice recordings from different communities from across the country and develop their own LLMs. So that way that the voices, Howard actually owns the data, and you could actually be heard and understood by these LLMs. And then we also have a UARC as well, Design and Make Lab, and then OpenAI Next Gen AI Consortium. And then we also, I just like to hang out. Center for Digital Business is awesome. Our faculty scholarly community, we've hosted AI workshops with them. Our English has a Gen AI task force thinking about AI as a companion, not as a replacement, but a companion in writing. We also work with Google Gen AI Consortium to ensure that AI models are actually responsive in a cultural context. In July of last year, we launched our Howard Law AI initiative led by Roy Austin. We also have researchers anywhere from natural language processing to health and to jobs. So it's a fun ecosystem. And so this is the project that I had mentioned, the Project Elevate Black Voices. Dr. Lucretia Williams, she was speaking at Amazon's Machine Learning University about this, where for me, the biggest impact is being able to collect your own data, own your own data, and having a governance structure about how it can be used. So that way it's not just tossed out there in the ether. So really amazing work there. And then also Dr. Lee Burge with the NIH AIM Ahead Data Science Training Corps. where they're upskilling those who are researchers in the community and practitioners around AI and health. And I have mentioned Roy Austin with the AI initiative, where he's just launching program after program. He came from Meta. I'll just say he has interesting opinions. You can follow him on LinkedIn. Yeah, he did a writing. It was interesting. Yeah. And I love my English folks. And Amazon will be launching some boot camps this summer on bringing industry-aligned curriculum from Amazon to build AI courses. Not only for Howard, but for other people as well to come out, hang out, and do curriculum building with us. So that will be coming this summer. If you look up Margie Vela on Amazon, or if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll find her. The applications for this program, I think they've opened it up to the general public now. Just get to hang out with some really cool people. Another one is Dr. LaTanya Brown Robinson. She has an Ascend AI grant, which is Advancing Student and Collaborative Educator Networks for Digital AI Integration. Is Rand here? Where's she at? Rand? Oh, there she is. There's Rand. She's at Bowie State. She's one of her collaborators, so if you want to hear more about the project, talk with Rand. She knows everything. But this is a really cool project to build faculty learning communities to begin to build AI modules into their curriculum, into their courses, across all disciplines. And so how are we thinking about curriculum building? Well, first of all, I'll say a shout out of thanks to University of Florida, who was very generous in sharing learning outcomes, student outcomes, their certificate model, meeting with our team at Howard about their certificate. So we learned from that, and in October, we held a faculty workshop on what should we do with this certificate. Now, when I mentioned to our subcommittee, hey, if we're gonna have a certificate across all majors, we need all faculty to come in and tell us what to do. And, I say it with a smile. They're like, are you crazy? Have you been to our faculty meetings? Faculty always get along, right? I said, no, it's going to be great. Well, yeah, it actually was great. It was over 80 faculty that came from across the entire university. They gave us feedback. One of the courses we had to rename because they were like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And then they also provided resources and insights about what we should teach in those classes. And we did a follow-up meeting in December to say, this is what we learned, now what do we do next? So just inviting faculty to come along with us in developing and thinking about this. So the Fundamentals of AI certificate was just approved. It's 3 courses: Introduction to AI Tools and Techniques, Ethical Responsible AI, and AI in the Disciplines. So the Intro to AI Tools and Techniques is an application-based to different AI tools in different scenarios and different facets. Ethical Responsible AI, the first half of the semester, it talks about different governance frameworks in industry, higher ed, and government. And the students did a cross-sector analysis for the midterm. And then the second half, it's policy to practice. And then the third one, that's what we're doing with Amazon this summer, is building out AI in the disciplines courses, where we're just going to ask at least just 50% of the content be AI. What that means? We'll figure it out, right, together. Really, we don't want AI to be this much, just at least 50%. And so there's flexibility there. There are 4 categories, and again, this is built off of UFL's model: know and understand AI, use and apply AI, build and evaluate AI, ethical responsible AI. That's one with the 4. Start simple. And so we're just asking that the AI disciplines courses speak to one of these categories. And, oh man, writing those docs for a new certificate program, I had to do 2 of them. First the proposal and then the feasibility study. It was a research paper, but it was a lot of fun. Eventually, I'll once I catch a breath, I'll probably just publish it somewhere. But anyway, there are also other literacy frameworks. I don't know if y'all saw the Department of Labor just put out some policy frameworks, and they have 5 pillars: understand AI principles, explore AI uses, direct AI effectively, evaluate AI prompts, and use AI responsibly. So one thing you can notice that understand, explore, direct, evaluate, use, not build, right? Build is kind of not there. Am I missing it? Right. And so one thing I heard the other day was that in higher education, in the universities, or education in general, we like to build and develop stuff. And then in the workplace, it's the application-focused areas. And so there are different AI literacy frameworks that will be coming out. Okay, whoever's down, we'll probably do one on ours, right? How can we synthesize and bring together the different AI literacy frameworks so we can actually say, these are some essential KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, workers, students, people should know. And these are some optional ones, and these how they differ. So maybe that's our next workshop. So something that's been on my mind. So, by the way, and if you text ready, I haven't done it, so I'm just trying to have somebody else do it, so I can live vicariously. And has anybody did their training, the AI ready training? Nobody? Okay. All right, so if any, huh? Do you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was helpful. It was real basic, but I think it's a good starting place.
It's really interesting how they did it, right? Okay, so if you're curious, you could text 20202, text ready to that number, and the U.S. Department of Labor will take you through like a learning curriculum. Which for us is, you're going to use a text chatbot to learn? Absolutely. Maybe we should have different modalities to reach our students. Yeah, so just a challenge there. So where's all this, so cool, thank you for that. So where's all this going? Computational power. How are we going to have the compute power to really support this advancements in either hardware development, algorithm development, that sort of thing? And then how are we going to have new theories, new models, and ways that we can do AI in different facets? And then integrating physics, biology, social systems into AI models. If we're going to augment human behavior with AI, there's a humanistic component, right? The humanities. Okay, I'll just share one last story here. Back in, it was August of last year, I got all my humanities folks together. I'm like, let's do an AI in the humanities. Because I got into data science through the digital humanities, because I was just hanging out with my friend from cognitive psychology, right? Just hanging out. So I love humanities. And then, so we were applying to have an AI center at NIH, and then they kind of dropped it. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Because if we don't get that human interaction, that humanistic viewpoint of how AI is either interacting or impacting or working with or not, I don't know. I don't think it's not going to be cute. I'll just say it that way. It's not going to be cute. So that's something I haven't been able to figure out yet. And you'll see that under societal benefits here, humanizing AI for meaningful interaction. We cannot do that in tech alone. It has to be with those in humanities, from psychology, from ethics, from poli-sci, all that good stuff. And so the ongoing challenge, trust, right? Are we going to trust AI? Robustness, fairness, interpretability, security, right? Environment. It could go on and on. So there are different ways we're thinking about AI, but this is just, you got to end on a light note. Anybody see the Will Smith and spaghetti? Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And so Will Smith, there's a spaghetti test. That's what they call it. There's sound, but it's not playing. But so this came out in 4 years ago. Me and the tech guy were hanging out earlier. And so tried to use AI to generate video, right? And so you see his face looks kind of wonky. But again, this is so long ago, 4 years ago. They call it the spaghetti test, if you didn't know. It's kind of funny. But if you like people eating nicely, you don't like the video. And then this is today.
Man, we've come a long way.
And so there's this whole spaghetti test on creating these images and showing the power of AI and moving forward. And I just hope that as we develop and empower our students, ourselves, our friends, our colleagues, and communities, we empower things in a way that is responsible, in a way that is ethical, in a way that does support new innovations. At the end of the day, it's about this AI sandwich. I don't have spaghetti, I have a sandwich. I just generated this because I was at a workshop once in the back messing around. So it's just an AI sandwich where it's you inputting ideas. My head looks like an olive, I know. But then the AI gives you an output, but then you have to go back, review, and improve. Critique, analyze, edit, fact check, don't just accept, think and question. And these are things that we do really well in education. think a question. Why is this? What makes this? What is this? Let's find out. Let's figure out what things are. So while we are challenged with AI, we are also having opportunities to innovate and to rethink, well, what does it mean to have students think critically? What does it mean for my department to have a policy or guidelines that really support and promote learning, collegiality, and those sorts of things? What does it mean to have meaningful impact? So we may feel like we're going back to the drawing board, but it's a blank slate, and we will paint the picture together. So thank you.